This episode is brought to you by Ardan Labs Education. Sign up today to learn advanced concepts in Go, Docker, Kubernetes, Terraform, and more. Visit ardanlabs.com/education for more information.
Welcome to the Ardan Labs podcast. Our special guest today is Teiva Harsanyi. Teiva, dude, I can't believe I got you on the show, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for the invitation. It's actually quite impressive being here with you.
We'll see what you feel like after an hour and a half of me asking you a bunch of questions. For the few of those out there who don't know who you are, why don't you tell everybody kind of what you're doing right now today?
Currently I'm a software engineer at Google. More specifically, I'm working as an SRE in the so-called Borg ML team. So for those who don't know, Borg is basically the Google Kubernetes, Google internal Kubernetes. So basically, the scope of the team is to make sure that everything that is ML related that runs on top of Borg is reliable. And that involves actually doing quite a lot of Go, because most of the services that we own, they are in Go. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. And
How long have you been in this role at Google?
It's actually quite recent. I was working at Docker just before, but now I joined Google, I think, 4 months ago, and I'm still at the very beginning of the process, because there is so much to learn when you join Google. You don't expect to be really productive until way too much time.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we're going to get back to that. I don't want to jump ahead of that, because this podcast is about you and how you're at Google at this point, right? And I want to kind of explore that and hear your story. A couple things before we can start. Where did you grow up, and what year did you, let's just call it, graduated high school, or where you were ready to go to the next phase of your life, whether that was university or not, we'll find out. But where'd you grow up, and what year was it when you graduated high school?
I grew up in Marseille, south of France, and I graduated in 2011, I think. So I have like 11 years, 12 years of experience.
Nice. Okay. In France, it's very similar to the US, right? You're going to finish your grade school at about 17, which was at 2011, and then you can make a choice about how you want to move sort of forward. Is that fairly accurate?
Yeah, well, I finished my, I don't know how it's really called in English and everything, but I finished.
Your bachelor? You're talking
Yeah,
about university?
bachelor. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah, we finish around 17 years old or 18 years old, that part. And then, yes, you need to have a choice. But I graduated from my engineering school in 2011. Yeah.
Oh, that's the university in 2011.
Yeah.
Oh, so that means you really graduated high school like 2007.
Yeah,
You were
exactly.
17 in 2007. Okay. 2007 is that mark that I want. All right. We're going to explore your life from that point. But before we even talk about that, give me that very first, clear your head. Don't think about it too hard. Give me that very first memory that pops in your head if you're working on a computer.
Okay, I think it was. I would have loved to say, yeah, it was already to. Well, it was to develop great stuff and everything, but actually no, it was to play. Because I think that my parents had a computer. I don't even recall what it was back then, but I was playing GTA on a computer. Yeah.
Wow. GTA on the computer.
Yeah.
No fooling around there, dude. That's a serious game.
Yeah, it was actually from the above, like you had a 2D view or something like that, not even fancy as today.
And that was high school, or like you were like 12, 13, you think?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, 12, 13 years old, something like that. Yeah.
Nice, nice. All right. So talk to me about the years when you're 14, sort of 15, 16, 17, right? Those last 4 years of grade school. I'm always interested to know what people were sort of into, if anything, at the time, right? Were you into music? I don't know, sports or like something like what was that thing other than when you were not in school per se that you focused your time on?
I was doing a lot of sport back then. I was playing football, right? Not soccer, right? Obviously.
Yes, I've been told too many times this year that I have to say I have to call that sport football and I have to call the other sport American football.
Ah,
So I've been scolded enough.
okay. Yeah,
So I
I was playing
I just
football.
call it non-American football just to kind of jab it now. So
Yeah, it was in south of France, actually in Marseille. It's pretty much popular, and I wouldn't say like most of the kids, but a significant portion of the kids play football here because yeah, we have a team that is very popular in the city.
you played for your high school?
Yeah, I played. Well, I played until 18 or 19 years old, I think. Yeah.
Oh, so you were pretty good, man. This wasn't a joke then to play at that age.
Yeah. I love that actually. Yeah, that was good.
What position were you playing?
I was in the midfield. I was playing not a fancy role. I was a defensive midfield, where basically your scope is to get the ball from the other team and to pass to other people who were much better than me technically, basically.
What number did you wear? It's always the number. What,
Six.
you're number 6. Okay. I'm going to tell my wife, who's Colombian, that I was talking to a 6 today, and she'll know what I mean. I have no idea what I mean, but she knows what I mean. um, oh, that's awesome, dude. Uh, I don't get to meet a lot, especially people in tech who were, first of all, who played sports, but then athletic enough to play at that sort of age all the way. It's hard to get on your high school teams. It's hard to play once you hit 16. That's kind of where everybody gets weeded out in terms of you're good enough or you're really not good enough. So that's us. Did you ever think at all like I'm going to be a soccer player growing up? That's what I want to be.
Um, at some point when I was a kid, perhaps, yeah. Uh, but then I realized that I wasn't good enough at around 14 or 15 years old. So, yeah, I kept playing more for fun than really having a clear target of being professional or whatever. Yeah. But I played back then with, if for the people who know, with Samir Nasri. You probably you don't know him.
I don't. We're gonna show that on the show at some point.
Okay.
All right. So, but that's fair. But you still played. I mean, I played American baseball up until I think in high school. I finally stopped making the team. Like at some point, I just right, it wasn't good enough, and that was fair. And then it is what it is. So, just to even play all the way through is, I think, impressive.
Yeah. But did it bring you something for you like afterwards for your professional career? Was it interesting to grasp something from that experience?
From playing sports,
Yeah.
I mean, I loved playing sports. I loved being outside. I loved the competition. I loved playing as well as I like. I was usually not the worst person on the field, but there were moments where I played against people that humbled me. I remember in college playing pickup basketball. We were in the university they have in the US, you have divisions like 1, 2, and 3, 3 being the worst. I played a kid in basketball who was on our Division 3 team. He was the best kid on our team. I'd never played anybody that good.
Oh, okay.
And my brain shut down because that kid wasn't even good enough to play Division
Oh
2.
God. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Forget about Division 1. And I said, "Oh my God, what does a Division 1 player look like if this kid looks like this?" Right. and I think he even tried out for the NBA and he didn't make it. So um, there's this line in the sand. You've experienced it where you're good enough to play recreation. In fact, you're really good recreationally. I was, but then you meet those kids that are just sort of next level, and you just know. I think you saw that at 14.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's true.
it's just wild. It's just wild. Yeah, yeah. So, but even well, now I'm 50, dude. I won't. When I was younger, in my like 30s, I'd play basketball with my two boys, and I beat them up. I mean, beat them up on the court, just mainly to toughen them up because I knew that when they were going to play on the street with other kids, and they were going to take an elbow, I didn't want them to like.
Yeah. Okay.
I wanted them to get back up and play. So I didn't give them elbows like that, but I would play really hard with them. The problem is if they want to play now, I can't because they want to play they want to play hard. And they're bigger and stronger than me now, dude. They'll hurt me. I
They
won't
want
let them.
their revenge, right?
Oh no, no, for sure. There was one time where my son, he was young, but he hit me in the ribs just the right way and he bruised him. I couldn't let him know, but I was hurting for like a week, dude. So do you still play sports though? Are you still? Is that something that you try to continue to do when you can?
Yes, I did continue actually steadily. Right now, I kind of discovered climbing actually. So I started like a few years ago for a few months, but I got injured and I stopped, and then I got back like yeah 3 months ago doing some bouldering, and I very much like it because I don't know if you know anything about bouldering, climbing in general.
I really don't, other than I see places here in the U.S. that let you do that. But just because you mentioned it, I don't know if you heard, but this week, yeah, it was this week or last week, Chris Nova passed away in a
Yeah,
climbing
I know.
accident.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so it's a real sport, and a real sport that even somebody as experienced as her can, I mean, get hurt. But again, anything that's going to affect my knees, I'm not playing anymore. No, tennis, basketball, climbing feels like it would be strenuous on your knees. But are you doing it where you're doing the wall climbing? Oh no, you're actually going after mount, like you're bouldering.
Yeah, bouldering. So that's inside. You don't have any security, any rope, any ropes. You just have to climb something that isn't very high, and if you fall, you just fall on something that is quite well, not very hard floor. And I very much like it because in English, yeah, it's called the bouldering problem when you face something like every new one. It's called the bouldering problem, and I like this aspect because if you are not able to do it, you can either do it next because you get stronger, like more muscle or whatever, or because you are getting better from a technical standpoint. So there is always ways to improve, and at some point, if you're not able to pass the problem, perhaps in 2 days or in 1 week or in 1 month even, you would be able to do it because if you keep doing it, you should progress and get more techniques or more muscle or whatever. So I like this aspect of facing a problem that you have to solve at some point, right? I like that.
So my friend's daughter is now doing this competitively,
Okay.
where they're shown the wall, they see it for the first time, and they have 5 minutes to climb it. It's not about speed so much as about getting to the top, so they can like study the wall, and then and that's that puzzle thing, right? Like you're studying the wall to figure out the path that you can take in terms of your body and your skill, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's just like facing an algorithmic problem or something. Like you think about it, perhaps you are going to start from one way, and then you realize, no, that's probably not the best approach or whatever. So because sometimes you can try an approach that demand too much of your body to do it. You are going to force too much on your arm, and then you are going to get tired at the end or something like that. So there is always ways to improve, and just like it.
Refactor.
Yeah,
Re-
exactly.
Refactor your body and refactor your skill set. And so, as you know, probably Messi has gone to the Miami team, right? He scored. I think he's almost the top goal scorer for this. He's been there like 3 weeks. Anyway, I don't watch a lot of soccer, but I've been watching video of Messi, and he stands there expelling no energy, just watch like a fan. He's watching the game. I've seen 4 videos of this where he's just watching, walking a little slow, watching, and then out of nowhere he takes off, he gets the ball and he scores. And my mind is like blown away. Like he's learned at this age not to expel energy, to predict everything that's going on in the field, know when to move, and then execute. It's the same thing, right? Like there's some algorithm in his head, and he's learned how to master that.
Yeah, I heard actually an interview from him that he was saying that when he's walking on the pitch, he's also analyzing the position of the people and saying, okay, this guy is usually running from here to here, or I'm just giving bad examples, but he was analyzing for his next action when he will get the ball, and then he will know where to go actually, or who to pass the ball to. And yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
Mind blowing. Like the coach on the field, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
wild.
Mm.
Okay. So big into soccer. What other things were you? How about like school? Did you enjoy school? Was it easy? Was it hard? You couldn't care less. Like, what were your favorite subjects? Talk a little bit about school pre university.
Yeah, it was kind of messy actually, because I was terrible at school. I had just terrible notes everywhere. I did like a little bit of math, but I wasn't that good in math. So yeah, I just had like it was kind of terrible for me.
It's interesting because now, as you begin to graduate from your high school and you got to start thinking about university, what were you thinking in terms of study? Were you already at that point working with computers, even in high school or at home? What were you thinking as you were about to graduate? What you wanted to do next?
Yeah. I still had in mind to work with computers, because I was doing some stuff by myself and everything, and it felt just the most natural option for me to work there. Yeah.
So talk about that then, because were you, when you were not playing soccer or out, were you at home on the computer doing some programming? Were you doing that in school or something else that you had that affinity for?
Yeah. So yeah, I was working. It was also kind of messy, because when I was young like that, uh, I recall from the best of my memory, but working with so many different languages, because it's kind of hard when you start, uh, and you're like, okay, which language should I try? Because I tried so much of them. I tried Pascal, I tried C++, C#. For me, it felt like back then it was important knowing a bunch of different languages, and I didn't really know. It wasn't clear at all for me which languages you should use for which context and so on. So I was just learning some languages, doing some poor stuff, and yeah, it felt to me like I was actually doing something, whereas it wasn't really productive, right?
Yeah, but where were you getting access to the compilers? Because was it that easy to just pull down a Pascal compiler? And where does Pascal even enter into your vision in 2007, essentially?
It was because there was this. I don't know how you call it, but be it a framework or language or something like this, but with Delphi. You know
Oh,
Delphi?
Delphi. Yeah,
Delphi.
Delphi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like this aspect because at first, when you want to do something, I mean, it's kind of hard to be like, okay, I will do something. Well, today I'm mostly on backend side, right? And I know that I will mostly never prompt something beautiful right on the screen. But when you start doing something, you're like, yeah, it's kind of weird. I would like to display something on the computer, right? So Delphi was actually a way to do something using Pascal on the back end somehow, and then print something kind of beautiful using button and everything. And it was not very complex actually to do that. So yeah, that's the rationale for Pascal.
It was the Turbo Pascal. Yeah, they gave you all the UI components.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that. Okay, so you are playing with that at home. You're doing some programming. You're learning a bunch of stuff, and you realize that I want to go to school for this once I graduate. But it doesn't sound like you got like me, dude. I was horrible. I did not like school. Did you have the grades to say I can go to whatever university I like? What were your options as you're graduating?
Well, when you graduate in France, basically there are there are different options. The first one, well, the target, if you want to work as a software engineer, it's an engineering school, right? So we have different two types of path. The first one is the engineering school, and the second one is the university. And to enter an engineering school, you need to have some, well, a good, good notes and everything. But to enter university, pretty much everyone can enter there, you know. And I wasn't good enough to go directly to an engineering school, so I went to a public university because it was also very close from my home, and I was kind of lazy back then. So yeah, that was the most handy handier way to do things. Yeah.
So you commuted to so you went to university. You still lived at home.
Yeah.
Did you? I guess you don't need to pick a major or anything in your first couple of years, right? You just take liberal art classes.
No, we had a major, yeah, still, but it was math and IT, yeah, math and IT, yeah,
Oh, so they had an IT program. It was more like
yeah,
fixing, working on.
yeah, yeah.
Were you also working at all, even part time while you're going to university?
I was no. I was
That was just
working
full
from,
time.
yeah, full time, yeah.
That was full time. And I'm imagining also that's like a 4-year degree. So do you end up finishing that 4-year degree? And what do you end up with your final major is what like
It's a 5-year degree
oh,
actually.
5-year degree.
Yeah. But I didn't finish it. I spent there 4 years actually. It was, God, it was awful. I was so terrible even at university, you know, because uh, I felt like I was so far ahead from what's concrete. You know, I was just studying some theoretical stuff, and I failed to really understand like the link between those theoretical concepts and what I'm going to do when I will be a software engineer. You know, so I was just terrible at school, really. But for whatever reason, I've been able at some point to get a little bit more decent throughout my university career. Career. Uh, and then I have been able to join an engineering school. It wasn't a top ranked engineering school in France, not at all. It was still a public one, but here things were much more concrete. You know, I felt like the teacher there were able to told us like, okay, you are going to do that, and it's going to be used then in your probably in your software engineering job in that way. You see, so things were more concrete, you see.
So wait, so you did 4 years at the first university, and then you were kind of done and you applied to an engineering school and you got in.
Yeah. It was, didn't have a lot of hope actually, but yeah, for whatever reason I've been able to enter in. Yeah.
So you did it thinking you were not going to get it, but I had to at least try to.
Yeah.
So I guess your grades were good enough to get in.
Yeah, the last year was decent, more decent, but the three first years, like it was just awful for me.
So, but does it start over then to finish your engineering degree? So you just did 4 years, and then what happens? Now you got to do another 4 years.
Not exactly. I had to start from. I had 2 more years basically to complete the engineering school. Yeah, yeah. So all in all, it gives me 6 years. 6 years, but what I have is a degree of 5 years basically.
You have a 5-year degree. You finished in 6
Yeah,
because
exactly.
and all of the classes that you were taking were you felt like were really practical classes. You were doing practical. You were solving practical problems. Was it like what languages were they using? Java at that point?
Yeah, from the engineering school, we were using mostly Java. And for university, we were using languages like Prolog. I don't know if you ever heard about that.
Yeah, all the Lisp, Prolog, all those.
Exactly, like what's the point of that? No, I mean I don't want to criticize. There are probably a lot of use cases and everything, but I mean, yeah, if you have to be realistic, it's much more likely that you find a job in Java than in Prolog, right?
Yeah, those languages were taught in university to give you a feel for solving the same problem sort of in different ways because these languages made you think in different ways in terms of writing logic. So that's interesting, but you're right, you're not going to be writing an entire backend system in Lisp or Prolog or anything like that.
Yeah, but right now, today, I would be interested to learn about Prolog because obviously I forgot everything. But to learn about Prolog, to learn about different ways to do things. But I would have preferred actually to start with the like more classical way, and then when you start to get to grasp all this basic knowledge, then you can start to see other way like functional programming or different stuff. Well, that's just my rough opinion. Yeah, I guess.
You know what? I like that. I like that thought because they do. I think in universities sometimes start you too theoretical, and that's when you sort of disconnect. So if they started you more practical, then you'd probably be. You're right, more interested in the theoretical stuff. Yeah, actually, it's super interesting thought. All right, so you said in 2011 is when you finished that engineering degree, but the whole time you're going to school full time. You're not working.
Yeah, we just had internships actually for a few months. Yeah,
What was the internship that you got? Do you remember what that was?
yeah. The last one, which was probably the most interesting for me, it was in Airbus Defense and Space. Uh, I was very much interested when I was in my engineering school. I was very much interested in all the concepts related to service-oriented architecture. Um, I'm not sure exactly why, because I guess back then, like decade ago, it was already a major shifting from an applicative standpoint to a service-oriented standpoint, where you could have like yeah services served from any applications and everything. It was like a massive shift back then with a standardized interface and stuff like that. And my internship was basically there was a consortium where with different industries and different companies such as NASA, where they were standardizing uh, how to make how to design a service-oriented architecture in the context of spacecraft control center, basically. And it was God, it was very interesting.
There was, I feel like even at NASA, everything was sort of client server already, wasn't it? I mean, you had a spacecraft sending telemetry to some server on the ground through a. So, I mean, what is different about, I remember SOA, service oriented architecture. What was different about SOA related to just basic client server architecture?
Uh, the way they sold it, it was to say, okay, it was the CCSDS, this consortium, right, grouping all the different companies. So we, as a CCSDS, we define interfaces. We standardize the interfaces, for example, to raise telemetry or whatever, and then it's up to the supplier to say, I am compatible with the CCSDS interface. And then companies such as Airbus Defence and Space could have more options if they wanted, for example, to change from one telemetry provider to another. Instead of having a tight coupling back then with one specific protocol to interact and send telemetry, you could be like, okay, this interface is standardized, and if at some point, okay, I realize that this server back then, this application, I don't like it because it's too expensive, too slow, whatever, you could switch to another one because it would implement the same standardized interface.
I feel like, tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like, I guess, protobufs is the solution for something like this today, right? Where you publish your API in a version and you implement that, and then you're right. Am I wrong?
Yeah, completely. Yeah, completely. But back then it was SOAP, web
Oh yeah,
services,
SOAP.
and everything.
Oh my God, dude, yeah, SOAP over XML. And then there was a discovery service that would tell you what the API looked like. Oh my God. Yeah, I lived through that. I lived through that nightmare. Yeah.
UDDI, right? It was this. No, it was called this Universal
Microsoft,
Discovery. Yeah.
yeah, S something DI. Yeah, yeah. Microsoft SSDI. Microsoft had all this stuff built into all of their developer products and stuff. It was a big deal back then. Yeah, and if you weren't doing SOAP, you were doing it wrong, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And then everybody said, "What are we doing with all this XML?" And everything switched over to JSON, and all that went away. Wow. Yeah, I do remember all that. Um, all right, so you so you had these internships. You were working on what you thought at the time was cool stuff. You're about to graduate. You're not. Are you? What else are you doing in university? Are you literally just super focused on school, or you still playing some soccer? Are you still you're hanging out like nothing? That was all you can remember is home, wake up, school, homework, go back, Groundhog's Day.
No, well, I wasn't. Yeah, I told you, like, I had well, I wasn't really the most yeah, the best student ever, actually. So I used to party quite a lot, actually. And yeah, for some reason, at some point, I really thought that I wouldn't have any future in this domain. Really, I felt like I should stop my studies and get a job somewhere. So yeah, I feel really glad that I've been able to complete that, actually. Yeah.
Wow, so you were trying to convince yourself you didn't even need schooling. I can just go get a job right now.
Yeah. There was a part of me who just wanted to stop because, yeah, I was so bad at school. So yeah, in general.
Did you have people around you that had done that? Did you have people around you that were working already and didn't have schooling that kind of planted that seed?
Yes, I had people doing that. But it was mostly my father who was pushing me to say, okay, you should probably at least get a degree, a decent degree, and then you could do your own choices and whatever. So he was really supportive and pushing me for that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's this balance. As I have, I say I have 7 kids. I manage 7 kids. There's this balance that you have to have between pushing them and not like pushing them, just getting them to come to the same conclusions without you being such a pain that they don't even want to talk to you anymore. Right? Like there's an art to that. I feel like your dad found that sort of art where because you feel like he was supportive, where he's nudging you. There's difference between nudging and pushing, right? Nudging is okay. I get a sense that he was nudging you in the right way.
Yeah, I have the same, and actually I have a yeah, not going to share who, but I know someone, and his dad was really pushing him way too hard, above the limit, and today he stopped completely. He stopped just his study, everything, and so on. So yeah, I completely agree that you have to find the right balance between pushing too much or not enough. So yeah, as a father, it's probably very difficult. Yeah.
And every kid is different, so that line is different. The buttons are different. It's not easy. So then, fortunately, the way you're telling the story, you get that degree, you finish it, and now you're finally in a position where you can go work in industry. What year is that then? Is that the 2011 you
Yeah,
finished?
yeah,
Okay,
2011.
so you had these internships. So was your first job maybe one of these internships, or they had to go and you had to go find something?
No, I worked in a different company. I worked in Atos. I don't know if you know them.
How did you get that job though? Did you send resumes out and interview, or
Yes, sending resume. It was still in the overall context of service-oriented architecture, because it was still something that I liked back then. Yeah. So I worked on something that probably doesn't exist today, which is called Enterprise Service Bus, because back then it was also very interesting to be like, okay, we have a central backbone to integrate service/applications, and yeah.
yeah, it's basically Nats, old school Nats, man, right? You had a bus, uh, you're moving messages around.
Yeah, but doing much more logic actually. You could back then implement some logic to transform. But basically, the whole design was to say, I grab data from application or services, I transform it into a canonical data model. Oh god, that's I hate so much this word, this concept, but transform it into a canonical data model that is the well, the cross-domain view of your data, and then you transfer it to other application by first again transforming it into the target model, right? That was mostly the design of the stuff I was doing.
I know, I know, but like 12 years later, you still remember the language. You still remember the words. That's good.
Yeah. No, but companies still use that. I mean, I was partly joking on the fact that it's probably not used today, but there are still a lot of companies that rely on enterprise service bus today. Yeah.
So what did this company do? This is your first job out of university. You get this job. That's pretty exciting. I'm guessing the job was near home, so you got to stay home or you had to leave.
It was no, it was in Toulouse actually, which is a city 300 kilometers away from
Oh,
Marseille. Yeah,
you
still
had to
south of
move,
France.
dude.
Yeah, yeah,
It's your first time out of the house too. Then
yeah. Indeed. Yeah, yeah.
you had to be excited about that. I mean, you're finally like really on your own.
Yeah, completely on a completely new city. The city was really cool. There is a lot of students there, so it's a really cool place to live in. Yeah.
Did you make enough money to live on your own, or you had to find a roommate?
No, I was making enough money, barely enough money. Yeah.
But you had your own place.
Yes, I had. Yeah.
Do you remember the first night you slept in that apartment all by yourself without parents around? Like I remember like that feeling of euphoria, right? Like I've arrived.
Yeah. Completely. I recall actually the first night I didn't have a bed, so I slept on the floor. So that was an achievement, a success, right?
You didn't care. It was my it was my place. I don't really
Exactly.
care.
Yeah.
What did this company do? What was the problems you were solving there?
It was a company, well, sorry, I have to check something, a wording here, because I don't know if you say a services company.
What was the name of the company again?
Atos. ATOS.
ATOS, Atos. I'm assuming they're still around. Leader in digital transformation. Wow, doesn't get more generic than that. So you were just transforming data essentially for clients in one form or another.
Yeah, for clients, yeah. So our main customer was the French electricity provider. So yeah, we were doing some stuff for them.
How long were you at this company?
I stayed there for 1 year. Yeah.
That's it. 1 year and like you were done. You got bored. What happened in 1 year?
Yeah, it was a bit particular because I really entered this company. It was my first job, and I was really I wanted to give so much. Actually, I was very interested in everything and so on. But the team there was not very much interesting, and everyone was felt depressed about their job. It was a bit strange, and I recall actually a discussion with a friend of mine because in six months time, when I just joined the company, I was the tech lead of the team, which actually is a bit crazy if you think about it, because imagine working in another engineering domain, like whatever domain you can think of, and having a guy of 6 months being the technical leader. That's just stupid, right?
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
And you
Yeah.
didn't want that. You were looking to be, you wanted to learn. Now you're the guy everybody's going to learn from.
Yeah. And it was, well, it was. I mean, it was way too soon to be able to get a decent tech lead, right? So yeah, so I left.
Did you find the job, the next job first, or you're just like,
Yeah. My next job, yeah, I was in Airbus helicopters in Marseille. I got back to Marseille actually after
so you
1
had to
year.
move.
Yeah, I
So
moved.
your lease was up. Your lease was up anyway.
Yeah.
So how did you find this job though? Did you just throw resumes again out at the world?
Um, I knew very much this company because I had an uncle who worked there for like 30 years or something like this, and he was the representation of success in our family, So I grew up like having in mind that maybe at some point I would like to join Airbus helicopters and be like my uncle.
Okay. So the opportunity now presents itself
Yeah, yeah,
to be an engineer. Was your uncle an engineer at the company?
yeah. He was, yeah.
Wow. You didn't work with your uncle, or you weren't part of the same sort of division, were you?
No, he was not actually on the IT side. Basically, what he was doing, which was very very interesting, was when Airbus your helicopters was delivering new helicopter. He was in charge to make sure that basically the helicopter is reliable before to sell it to customers. So he was in charge. He was in the domain to test in various conditions the helicopter itself to make sure that it's going to be safe for customers.
Yeah, all the quality control. Yeah, testing and quality control.
Yeah, that was
All
cool.
right. So was he? What? Okay. So you apply and you get this job, right? Your family and your uncle must all be giddy. They must be proud. They must be excited. So what happens when you tell them, I just got a job here?
Yeah, exactly. That was somehow the deal, and it was still in the context of service-oriented architecture. So it was a great balance for me. Yeah.
But you didn't move back in with your parents, right? You got your own
No.
place.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. That was good. Yeah. You couldn't move back in. That would have been bad.
Yeah, of course.
So what are you doing at this company since they're making a helicopter? Your stuff wasn't running on the helicopter, was it?
No, not exactly. We were so it was still in the context of SOA and enterprise service bus. And for example, using this, we were exposing services to customers. For example, we had a requirement to say for our top customers who want to order parts of the helicopters, if they want to do it in an automated manner, we could expose some B2B services to them, and then up to them to query that. So all the services were exposed on top of this enterprise service bus. Yeah.
Mm, you were almost building e-commerce. They couldn't pay for the parts there, but they could see the inventory.
Yeah. E-commerce services. Yeah, e-commerce services, which was one part of the stuff that I was doing. Yeah.
How long were you at this helicopter company?
How long? What? Sorry.
How long did you work there?
I worked there for less than 3 years.
All right, but 3 years is pretty good.
Yeah, but it was interesting actually because something that I liked is the fact that um, I had a mentor there, and this guy was like, I was still young, right? Because I still had only 1 year of experience, and my mentor was like, when you start, it's probably very much important for you to be very decent in everything except for the technical stuff. Like he was really encouraging me to get good at holding a meeting, communicating stuff, doing presentation, writing stuff, all the thing that is not really technical, you know. So I learned so much from this experience, not really on the technical side, because it wasn't that much technical, but really it helped me to grasp a lot of knowledge on, yeah, on being able to collaborate, to speak with people, different domains, different guys, different jobs and everything. So I felt like it was very interesting, and I think it's important for newcomer for people who just graduated to be like, okay, technical stuff isn't all my sole focus. We should also be able to be good at the rest. You see what I mean?
No, absolutely. This person was making you a well-rounded human being, really. And all the things that you also know now are super important to be successful in any sort of position, technical or not.
I did realize, for example, how important it was to be good when you have to communicate, be it because you want uh, to show to the rest of the company what your team is doing, and so on. It's so much important rather than staying only the like basics. Sorry, it's probably not the right term, but basic software engineer where you're just doing stuff by your own without showing people. I realized how much it was important to really communicate effectively, you see.
So I expected you to tell me you were there for 10 years because of the prestige this company held in your family and with your uncle. And so I imagine, and again, tell me if I'm wrong, that when you decide that you're going to move on, that's a hard conversation to have with your family, or was it easy? Tell me about the moment when you realized I have to move on from here, and what your thoughts were about telling that to your family.
No, it was okay actually because my parents started to really trust me. You know, they didn't trust me when I was a student, but they did start to trust me when I was a professional software engineer, basically. So yeah, I explained to them the decision and everything, and also to my uncle, and yeah, they both understand actually this.
Now, did you decide you were going to leave before you found the next? I mean, still waiting to get it, but or did something come across your desk and you said, "I have to take this opportunity"?
No, yeah, I had an opportunity because a friend of mine was working in another company, a French insurance called AXA, um, and yeah, it seemed like a nice opportunity. So yeah, I applied, got the job, and resigned. Yeah.
I feel that I feel like you just went to a really boring industry. You went from building helicopters. That's cool. to
Yeah.
like finance, which is stuffy and boring, and now they're going to make you wear a suit and tie. So, like, what was it about the position that made it feel like more interesting than what you were doing with helicopters? I know you weren't doing helicopters, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do understand. Yeah, it was because, yeah, as you have said, actually, because the company was building helicopters, we didn't have that much money to build some stuff on the IT side, and they were more and more externalizing the developments, so it wasn't even done at Airbus Helicopters. So my job, if I would have stayed here, would have be less and less technical, more of a project manager managing people external to the company. And that was not what I wanted to do, right?
Yeah. So now it makes sense. Your buddy's telling you it's a good place to work.
Exactly.
You check it out, you apply. So when you get to this company now, what are you doing? What's the problem that you're trying to solve at this company?
So I was working in
Because
the
wait. What time is it? 11. You started in 2011. You spent a year 2012. So this is like 2015.
yeah, probably something like that. Yeah. Um, I worked again, and it was the last time in my career. It was again in the context of enterprise service bus. They were using a different one back then, but the context was interesting because it was not solely focused on that. It was working in the so-called design authority with some kind of tech lead, architect, or whatever, and we had a small team where we had to work with all the different entities within the AXA group. So we had, for example, I was personally working a lot with the Japan entity, the Japanese entity. So I had to work with them to understand what they were doing, if I could help them and everything. So it was really interesting. Yeah.
But now your customers were internal customers.
Yes, they were. Yeah, indeed.
So you're still writing the same sort of code on the same sort of architecture. The problem space was a little different. How long are you at this company?
I stayed there for 1 year. Yeah.
Yeah, I if I was going to guess before I answered the question, I was going to say 1 year. Only because I have to imagine that you're done with this sort of problem space. You must be bored at this point.
Yeah, that's more or less what happened. Yeah.
You're getting bored, like you've done this, great. So what's happening now? You're like, there's another opportunity. What I always love to hear is like just an opportunity came by and I just had to take it, or did you actively go out and look for the next one?
For the next one, it was actually the same friend of mine who, because he just left AXA just before I joined in, and he went actually to, yeah, I knew about that because it was more or less a replacement of him.
He needed to replace himself and he brought you in.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
And he started to work at in Geneva, in Switzerland. And here the context was really cool. It was for flight control center in Geneva. And yeah, he called me, and again I said yes. It looked interesting. The domain seemed interesting and everything. So I moved there. Yeah, I moved in Geneva.
Time out. We're like 2016, 2017.
Somehow, yeah.
So
Yeah.
a couple of questions. One, you're about to move to a different country. Two, do you have a partner at all at this time, or are you still just single?
At this time, actually, well, it's kind of fun that you mention it because just when I resigned, actually, from this company, like a week after, I met the girl who I'm still with today, actually. So yeah,
In your local town.
it was in Paris. Yeah.
So you resign. You have a job now in Geneva that you're going to go move for, and then, as fate has it, you meet this girl.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness!
Exactly.
So why would you pursue a relationship with this girl when you're like leaving town? How does that even work?
Yeah, we actually lived in a distance relationship for 3 years. Yeah, but it worked actually. We used to meet like at least every month. We're trying sometimes to do a bit more.
Time out. Time out. Did you know this person at all previous to meeting her? How many weeks did you have before you had to move to Geneva from the time that you saw her?
I think it was less than a month, so 2 weeks or
So you
something
had
like
at
that.
least a month to spend. You had close to a month to spend time with, and then you moved. Was there ever this idea that she was going to move to Geneva?
Uh, it was an option. Yeah, we didn't choose this option, but it was an option back then. Yeah.
Okay, so that's unbelievable, man. So let's just say it's like 2017. You get this job. It sounds pretty cool. So you moved to Geneva to start working on this. Two questions. What was the job really, and then sort of what was your tech stack there?
So the job they were basically transitioning because well it was in the context of flight control center and it was not really modern actually because it's in a so-called safety critical environment and actually it's quite kind of fun because when you join the company uh, I had a presentation where the guy was saying yeah in our company if we have a bug a critical bug or something we are not going to lose money we are not going to lose customers we may lose lives so it just sets the bar kind of really high you know.
Fairly high.
Exactly. And this company was transitioning to service based architecture. But I'm not going to call it SOA still, but back then. But yeah, having to transition from application to services basically. And my role here was mostly at first what I've done for almost 2 years was working on a kind of central flight data repository where you could store and compute all the flight events from the different applications, from different partners, store that and export data to a bunch of different.
Are you using Java for all this stuff? Is this all Java?
It was in
Like all
Java,
these
yeah.
years?
It
Yeah.
was. It was just before my learning Go.
Okay, but this is the same work you've been doing. This isn't new work. This is the same sort of work you've been doing, right?
Yeah, but yeah, well, it was very different still nonetheless because it was the first time really that I had to work on a stateful application really you know so starting to understand how to store data the challenges related to data consistency and stuff like that so it was fairly new for me back then. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, so that's cool. What databases were you using? Do you remember?
Yeah. So I was actually suggesting because it took us really a lot of time for that, but suggesting to adopt a CQRS slash event sourcing approach. So the database itself for the storing of the events that was event store. And mostly what we were using to create the views, it was Elasticsearch.
Okay, nice. So all new tech too for you to be working on.
Yep. Yeah.
How long were you at this company?
I stayed there for 3 years almost. Yeah.
Another 3 years. And how did your role change throughout those 3 years?
Yes, it did change because at some point we were able to deliver this stuff and so on. And I moved to another project, and the project was to refactor a monolith. And that's the first time actually that I faced Go.
Oh, so was it a rewrite of a Go service, or was it a Java service you wrote in Go?
It was a C++ monolith. Really, it was a very old monolithic application that was really owned by one person actually who worked on that for almost 20 years. And at some point, the company realized that it was not really maintainable to have only one guy knowing the core system of the company, you know.
Did you finish that project?
No, I didn't. I didn't. But I worked really on the first part before, like, trying to see what could be the best technology to rewrite this application and what would be the best design for that.
Why Go at the time? Because you're not writing Go. And it's what? It's got to be 2020 at this point?
18 or 19? Yeah, yeah.
Okay, 2018, 19. Okay, that's fair. 2019.
At first, so I was working still with the same friend actually on this. We were together on this project. At first, I recall that we were pretty much interested in trying to see all those technologies related to the reactive manifesto. So, for example, Scala and Akka, they were implementing some stuff on top of the actor model and everything. That seems very fancy back then, very very interesting. You see, and the thing is that we started a first POC on those technologies. It was interesting, very interesting, but it was so complex actually. And we were like, okay, if we have at some point to pass this project to the dev team and they have to learn all those technologies on Akka and everything, it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be a significant learning curve actually for them, you see. So at some point we were like, we should probably see if there is something different to do that, and we started to have a look at Go back then, and doing the same thing in Go using just a Kafka's messaging backbone to send external messages and whatever, but using Go really as the main language here. It was so easy for us to, so natural to write, to read, to understand. Everything was clear, and so we just dropped the Scala Akka part, and we were like, okay, probably Go is the best for us, right?
And that's like in the scope of your last year there.
Indeed, yeah, exactly, yeah.
So, okay, before we move on from there, and this whole time for 3 years, you're dating your partner who's back in Germany. I mean, France. Sorry, France. And I'm fascinated by that. Are you visiting each other like every month?
Yeah. We're trying to keep a steady pace. Actually, she was visiting me, and then my turn, and yeah, we were doing.
What did she do? What did she do for those 3 years? Was she working?
Yeah,
Going
yeah.
to school?
Yeah. She was working at AXA actually still, so she were.
An engineer?
Yeah, as an engineer. Yeah.
Wait. But you met her at work, or you met her? I had in my brain you met her out one night, but you met her at work.
At work. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's fair. I don't know why I had in my brain like you went to a bar that night because you quit. I had it in my brain that you met her after you left in some bar, and it was just like fate, you know. But you had met her. You had met her at originally at work.
Yeah, and she was just joining the company herself. Yeah. When I left.
She wasn't on your team there though. She was on another team.
Yeah, close to my team, but yeah, not directly my team. Yeah.
Oh, dude, look at you. Okay, so now you do your 3 years. You gain almost a year of Go experience. What happens next?
What happens next? So I move again to a different country. I move to the UK and to London.
What comes up?
I was still very much interested in London. I felt like this, and I still feel like this city is absolutely beautiful. And yeah, I just wanted to move there at some point in my life, and I had an opportunity with a utility warehouse. I don't know if you know that.
Utility warehouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that company. I do some work for them.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So how does a utility warehouse job pop on your radar screen?
Because they were doing some Go, yeah, and it seemed to be.
Yeah, no, but I guess I'm asking, did you decide, okay, I'm going to start searching for companies in London now to go work at?
Yeah, yeah.
Or okay, so it's you taking the initiative to say, you know what, I want to go to the UK. But your partner, is she going to move with you to the UK at this point?
No, she stayed in Paris. She understood for that it was one of my dream at some point to live in London, and it was a bit difficult for her because she doesn't really speak English. So, but she was like, okay, let's keep this pace and move to London, and let's see how things go. Basically,
That's amazing. So the relationship you both had was exactly what you both needed. Like the idea of being together every day wasn't important. You were good at having your own lives and then
yeah, yeah, yeah.
sharing that time. But now we're talking like, how long are you in the UK for? How long are you with Utility Warehouse for?
I stayed there for less than 2 years, I think. 1 year and a half.
Okay, but another 2 years. I mean, 5 years in a long distance relationship, essentially.
Yeah, a bit less, I think, if I calculate. Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, Utility Warehouse is doing the same sort of stuff. They've got a tremendous amount of data coming in. They have to transform it and process it, um, and organize it for somebody's sort of bills, right? Like that's the whole idea. And that's a go shop. So you go to London, you work there for 2 years, writing Go, doing a lot of the same work. Um, now we must be talking about 2020. So now COVID hits, and you're not going to the office anymore. You're living in the UK. You're not seeing your girl at all because nobody can travel.
No. Just before COVID, actually, I moved back to Paris.
Oh,
I
by
left Utility
accident.
Warehouse. Yeah.
Okay, so talk to me about that. What's driving your decision to move to Paris? Are you finally at a point where you're like, I want this relationship to be more, or is it a job? What's going on?
No, it was exactly that. Yeah, based on my relationship. Yeah, it was the right time to 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 be together in Paris. Yeah.
Wow, dude, that's amazing. There was no hesitation after the relationship you had to. Weren't you worried? Like, I'm gonna spend a full. I'm gonna like. I'm at that point. I'm assuming you're moving in together, right? Like a decision
Not
to.
directly, actually. Not directly
Oh,
together.
okay.
Yeah, we still kept two apartments, two flats. Uh, yeah, just for I guess a smoother transition. You see what I mean?
But I guess you find this is like I've gone through the same sort of scenario, right? You keep the two apartments and you pretend you're going to have your separate lives, and you do that a little bit, but you start to find that you're sleeping over one or the other more, more and more, to the point where you're paying rent for a flat that you're not using.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, exactly that.
So you want to move back to Paris, so you got to find a job in Paris. So where do you end up in Paris?
I worked remotely for a company called Bit, which was, because unfortunately the company stopped, but which was a Uber-like competitor. We're mostly deployed in South America and in Greece. It's a Greek company at first. Yeah.
What were you doing there? What kind of dev were you doing there? Are you finally getting out of this sort of data acquisition transformation thing?
Yeah, it was very interesting. It was in the so-called matching domain, where basically when a passenger wants to have a new ride, you need to find the best available driver for that. You see, and it seems like a straightforward problem, but actually it's not at all. It's not straightforward at all. And what is interesting actually in this domain overall is the fact that you have two customers. You have the driver customer, and you want to make them satisfied because you want to make them earn as much money as possible. And you have the passengers, and for them it's a complete different requirement that you have. You want them to have their ride the soonest, and find the best driver for that. So two customers, and you have to find the right balance actually between those two. You see?
Mm. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, for sure. So you got to work on some of those matching algorithms and the software that made those decisions.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
pretty cool. And did any of that stuff that you did run in production at any point?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, we used to. It was a really cool domain actually with a bunch of talent I think there. So we're deploying like multiple times per day in production and everything. We're quite agile actually.
But that company ends up not surviving. It's a difficult. You need a lot of money. You need all the right connections. It's a tough business.
Yeah, well, and especially COVID hit us like really hard. Because as you can imagine in this domain, well, you cannot. Well, yeah, it was difficult to survive. Yeah.
No, nobody's traveling anymore.
Yeah,
Everybody is.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. The business goes away, which is kind of scary. Is this the first time you get fired at all, or you saw the writing on the wall and you?
I left just before. I heard rumors back then saying, yeah, the company isn't going very well and everything. So yeah, I just left before. Yeah.
Nice. And where did you end up?
I ended up at Docker.
So that's interesting. Who's headquartered out of San Francisco at the time, right? So another remote job from Paris.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
what was the role at Docker that you took on there?
It was to work on Docker registry, Docker Hub, and Docker Search mostly.
Okay, so all the consumer-facing websites and stuff, but that wasn't in. I guess, yeah, I guess you had backend APIs in Go, and the front end was written in some JavaScript framework.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
you worked on the backend.
Yeah. Completely on the backend. Yeah. But on Docker Hub, it was a rewrite because it was mostly in Python, and we transitioned to Go. And for Docker registry, it started from scratch in Go. But
Really? So like 2020, that stuff was just starting to get
mm,
built.
yeah,
God, why did I think that stuff should have been around? I guess others had registries before Docker had a registry.
yeah, probably. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Oh man. How did you find that job? Was it again just looking, or did someone tell you about it?
No, here I started to be more demanding, if I could say that, in terms of the company. I wanted really a top company, and for me, Docker was really attractive because I feel like what they propose to the developers, it's really great, and yeah, I wanted them. Yeah,
I mean, it's a good thing to have on your resume.
yeah. But I didn't stay long enough, unfortunately. But yeah,
Yeah, because from Docker, is that where you end up at Google?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to me about that, because if you're going to go get a job at Google, like that requires some dedication. That's like months of interviewing, right? Like it's not a joke. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on when you make that decision. I want to interview at Google and get that job.
Just to say something first, like when I quit Bit, like the previous job, I applied to two companies, so Docker and Google, and it took Google months to reply to me, and actually I got the reply, so okay, for an interview, for a set of interviews, right? The very first day I was working at Docker, so I was like, God, I was very happy. I found my job and everything, but I was like, Google has always been my dream job, and I should give it a try. You see?
Yeah. So because they move so slow, you got the Docker job,
Yeah,
but now they decide they want to put you through the process. So while you're working at Docker behind the scenes, nobody knows you're going through the Google process. And how long did that take then? That was that like 6 months,
yeah.
4 months?
4 5 months. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Just always curious because more than a handful of people who went through that whole process for 4 or 5 months, and then at the very end were told no. So, how did you feel when they accepted you for a role? Were you shocked, surprised? You're like, of course, I was going to get hired. Come on.
No,
Teva.
no, not at all, not at all. Yeah, I was positively surprised. I wasn't expecting that actually. Yeah, the interview process was very long, but it took me really like I wanted at least 2 months to work on my own on building again some foundations on algorithmics and stuff like that. Uh, and then yeah, so I did the interview. It went well actually. So and I had the unfortunately I had the well, unfortunately, but I had the response from Google when I was in Miami because there was a big event at Docker with all the internal member of Docker, and I felt so bad about it. I was like, God, I'm going to betray the company who trusted me, and I felt really bad. Yeah, that's true.
But you have to move for Google. So are you able to work? I guess, do they have an office in Paris?
They do, yeah.
So you didn't have to move. You're already in Paris. You can work out of that office.
But I'm remote actually, so yeah.
Well, because of COVID. But if it hadn't been for COVID, is your group based out of Paris or?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
It's always been my understanding that you have to be in an office at Google, even if you're remote right now, right? Because of COVID. But like all my friends have either had to move to New York, San Francisco. They've had to move.
No, because I'm remote actually. The team is in Zurich and USA, and in Paris actually there is no one from my team. So yeah, I'm working remotely and going to the office when I'm hungry from time to time, and there is nothing in the fridge.
But you have an office there in Paris, so you have a place to go. And how have you so now you've been at Google for a couple of years.
No, only 4 months. Yeah.
Oh, 4 months. That's right. I'm sorry. 4 months. You had Docker over there. And you're loving it? Is Google everything you thought it was gonna be so far?
Yeah, it's I really think that most of the people I really like the culture there. All the people I'm discussing with, I feel they are great. Like really, everyone is really open in terms of communication. I'm not like selling Google or whatever, right? I'm just giving my honest impression of this for first month. But yeah, I love the culture here. And what is really surprising, actually, when you join Google is the fact that almost everything is an internal tool. Like for example, in terms of monitoring solution, logging solution, library, frameworks, or whatever you could imagine that you may use as a software engineer, as a tool or framework, whatever, everything is developed internally at Google. And that's actually shocking at first because you have the feeling that most of your experience that you have built in being good at Kubernetes, at Prometheus, or stuff like that, just doesn't count because the company just use complete different tools and technologies. You see?
I just find it super impressive to say you worked at Google. I don't care what anybody says to me. I find that to be one of the top things you can have on your resume. I know how hard it is to get into that company. And I know you're working on really cool stuff. So I just find it impressive. I'm sure your parents and your uncle and everybody walk around town going, yeah, but my nephew works at Google. My son works at Google. I think it's a big deal.
Yeah. I have to admit, yeah. But I'm also very proud myself because I failed first. I mean, like 6 years ago or something like that. I tried to apply at Google. I didn't even spend the first interview. I failed directly to the first interview. So yeah, I'm quite happy here. Yeah, to be fair. Yeah.
All right. No, we have talked for about an hour and 20 minutes, and I do not know how your book has not come up. And so you have to tell me about when the idea, well, first of all, tell everybody about your book, and then tell me about what year the idea for the book came, because when were you working on this with everything else that we've been talking about?
So yeah, I wrote a book that is called 100 Go Mistakes that got released last year, right? And which was also released in Japanese like 2 days ago, by the way. So for there is any Japanese listener, so that's I felt like it's really cool. Uh, so the idea, so as you can imagine, from 100 Go Mistakes, it's a way to list a bunch of common mistakes that Go developer are doing. And I got the idea when I started to work at Utility Warehouse because it was my second experience when I was working in Go. And I was noticing some common patterns in terms of errors, in terms of mistakes made by developers. And I was like, it could be a nice idea if I was at first writing a blog post to share a bit some common patterns of errors made by Go developers. So I wrote a blog post, and it was in 2018, I think, something like that. And it went pretty much popular. Bunch of people told me like it was a good idea and everything. And I was like, perhaps it might be a good idea to try to write a book about it, to try to extend the very scope of only, I think that my blog post contained like 10 mistakes, to extend it to something, you see?
So I love asking this question to book authors. Knowing what you know now, would you have ever really sat down to write that book?
uh,
It's a labor of love. Like you don't. It starts out fun, and then it turns into a job, and then it turns into a nightmare to finish it.
Yeah, yeah. I wasn't planning at all that it would take me that much time to be fair. Yeah, yeah. I would probably.
How much time did it take? Like a year, 18 months? It took me 18 months. It takes me 18 months to write a book.
Yeah, 18 months as well. Yeah. 18 months, but I had 6 months of preparation first when I was collecting mistakes. I was increasing the number of mistakes that I could present, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, from the time you start to the time it's published, it's just for whatever reason, that's what it takes.
Yeah, yeah.
With hours every day that you have to sort of force yourself.
Yeah, yeah. That's yeah. It was really tough. Yeah, to be fair. Yeah, it was really tough.
Did this book get published while you were at Docker or before you started at Google? But
Yeah, I think it was
yeah.
when I was at Docker. Yeah, yeah.
See, now you went into your Google interview and you said, "Well, but I wrote the book, so that's why you got the job."
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah, man, that's amazing. So even during all that time from Utility Warehouse to Docker and all that, you're spending hours every day working on that book.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm going to assume at this point we're just about out of time here, but I'm going to assume that you're now living with your partner. So at some point, your lease, that first year lease went up, and you said, "Okay, we're going to live together now." So whose apartment did you keep?
Mine.
Yours was better.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome, dude. So I love that. Like that's one of my favorite parts of the story that you spent 6 years sort of living, being together apart, and now you're together full time. So, I mean, you can do that. Uh, It's a good sign for the relationship. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
I guess so. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, dude. We're out of time. I didn't know where this story was going to go, and I kind of love all the different places that it went. You've done a lot since 2011, since you graduated university. You got to see a lot of different companies, work on a lot of different things, and now, and at Google, you're an SRE, so you're working. Yeah, you said on the board. It's funny because when I meet people from Google, and I guess people that have been there a long time, and you say Kubernetes, they're always like, Kubernetes could never run this place. Like they get a bad taste in their mouth when you try to compare Kubernetes with Borg, because Borg is like Google ready as opposed to like Kubernetes, which is not.
Yeah, but there is actually a sentence somewhere in the documentation in Kubernetes saying it won't work if you extend that number of machines, basically. So if you have more like I don't recall exactly the number, like 2,000 machines or whatever. At some point, it just won't work with Kubernetes. Yeah.
Right. At Google, you're dealing with 1 million machines. So for those of you, hearing some of this for the first time, I mean, that's the scale, like 1 million machines versus a couple thousand machines. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Wow.
just
Wow.
mind
Wow.
blowing. Yeah.
Yeah. Mind blowing. But at least in this job, for as long as you stay there, you're going to learn what it really means to have Google scale. And when you leave this job, for the most part, you should never, ever have to deal with that level of scale again, which is going to bring ease to your life because you're going to be like, yeah, but it's not Google scale. I know what that feels like.
Mm-hmm.
No, but that's amazing. Okay. If anybody wants to reach out to you after hearing the show, and we'll put it in the show notes, but what's the best way for somebody to reach out?
On Twitter, I'm quite active there. So my Twitter is TEIVAH. Teiva.
All right, Teiva. This is Bill Kennedy and Teiva signing off from the Ardan Labs podcast, and we hope to see everybody again real soon.